Satan's structure, the devil's playground, whatever you want to call it. I'm Charles Rentham with every WWE Hell in a Cell match ranked from worst to best part 1. The reason it's going to be part 1 is, well, let's be honest, talking about more than like say 20 to 25 matches in one video would be difficult. This is going to be 41 Hell in a Cell matches, so it could even be a 3-parter if I get into rants and I get into praising, when I get to the good stuff. But unfortunately, when you do a worst to best video, you gotta slog through the really bad shit. And I'd love to know what you guys have to say in the comments and how you would rank, say, your favorite and least favorite, Hell in a Cell matches. You don't have to do everything worst to best, but give me a top 5 if you'd like. So, there were actually 42 Hell in a Cell matches, not 41 like I'm gonna rank, but the 42nd match was a dark match that went 5 minutes. It had Cena versus Del Rio versus Punk versus Ziggler versus Swagger. And it was the dark match for the September 26, 2011 edition of Raw. So why am I going to rank a dark match there? That would obviously be the worst. But since, no footage of that exists, at least that I'm aware of, why the fuck am I going to talk about it beyond saying, yeah, that probably would be one of, if not the worst. It was a 5-minute match. Nobody used a cell. Everybody just hit their finishers, and Cena retained. So let's talk about number 41, Undertaker versus Big Boss Man, WrestleMania 15. Oh, dear. This was fucking goddamn rotten. Really goddamn rotten. 1, nobody cared about the feud. It was 2 heels. Nobody cared about the Ministry and the Corporation feuding. It was a messy goddamn feud. Soon after this would be, where to, Stephanie? And it would just get really, really bad, with Vince McMahon being revealed as a higher power. But before that, yeah, they had Undertaker beat Big Boss Man in one of the worst WrestleMania matches in history. It's got to be top 20. I can't imagine that this would be ranked out of the top 20 because it was fucking atrocious. And one, Boss Man was on the downside of his career at this point. Undertaker was not motivated. And could you really blame him? I mean, that freaking, whole Ministry, Lord of Darkness thing was not very good. And then after Undertaker beat Big Boss Man, they hung him, from a noose. Obviously there was an apparatus to keep him from choking, but good God, they really made it look real. And then Michael Cole started plugging something right afterwards. So yeah, that was a great job right there. Big Boss Man was literally hung on a pay-per-view. That sounded a lot less dirty in my head before I said it. And then they went right to, something, okay, whatever, we'll just go with something else. We saw a man almost die on pay-per-view, but good Lord. Fucking Christ. And then we get to number 40, CM Punk versus Paul Heyman and Ryback, Hell in a Cell 2013. I mean, come on. It was the CM Punk Paul Heyman feud being extended way too far, and Ryback was in the second straight Hell in a Cell match, that he would have with Punk, counting the 2012 version, which I'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, it was Punk getting his revenge on Heyman, and Ryback was also there as a heel, and a very uninteresting heel. Not that he was an interesting face, but he's a much better face. Yeah, it wasn't very good, at all. 2013 was a rotten goddamn year, especially in the fall. Number 39, CM Punk versus Ryback, WWE Championship, Hell in a Cell 2012. They had Brad Maddox be the rogue referee, and low blow Ryback and CM Punk won, and it was really, really shit. It was really goddamn shit. This is one of the worst goddamn matches that I saw of 2012, and it was absolutely atrocious. It didn't help that CM Punk, I believe, was dealing with some kind of injury. Ryback was a klutz, but he was over at this point. The thing is, they should have just slotted somebody else in there if they wanted to have Ryback maintain his aura of invincibility, because Punk had to win, but Ryback couldn't lose. And they tried to find a way where, we're going to, Starrcade 98 this thing up. And yeah, they just fucked it up, and then Ryback just slid further down the card. Turned heel after Mania 29, after he lost to Mark Henry, feuded with Cena, and nothing came of it. So yeah, gotta just basically say that was really, really shit. And then, number 38, Seth Rollins versus the Fiend Universal Title, Hell in a Cell 2019. You thought the previous year's event, had a no contest. That was the worst decision. Oh no, hold my beer, Vince McMahon says. And yeah, this was absolute dog shit. 1, the Fiend was buried under a whole bunch of shit. They did the red lighting, which was absolutely fucking atrocious. It made the cell look ridiculous. Nobody could see anything. Nobody cared. Everybody was booing Rollins. They were cheering the Fiend, and then it got to the point where they were just booing everything because they were treating this like a horror movie monster thing, and that didn't translate to wrestling. Also, they should have just made this a match where it was not for the championship. The Fiend didn't want the title. He didn't need the title. He never needed the title, but they gave him the title twice. and it didn't fucking work. They gave him the title in the, at the Saudi Arabia show later that month, and it was not very good. Yeah, this was easily the match that turned all the fans against Seth Rollins, and then he had to turn heel sometime afterwards. And I feel bad for Seth because he was trying. They did kind of hot shot, his thing with Brock a little bit when Brock cashed in Money in the Bank that Ali should have gotten, and then Rollins beat him at SummerSlam, and that didn't really work. And it's sad because Rollins was really over for a while. This didn't help. And he had the Fiend buried under a whole bunch of shit, and they stopped the match because Rollins was hammering him and everything, and just was hammering him with all this shit on him, and the referee's like, that's enough. Hell in a Cell is supposed to be this destructive playground, and oh no, he hit him with too much shit. He hit him with that. That's too goddamn much. When we've seen people fall off of the cells and bleed buckets and almost die in the ring, we've seen Vince McMahon get his face shoved up Big Show's ass, which somehow was not the most horrifying thing that's happened in a Hell in a Cell match. Yeah, Seth Rollins versus The Fiend. Felt good to rant about that again. We get to number 37, Reigns versus Strowman, Universal Championship, Hell in a Cell 2018. Okay, so Mick Foley's a special guest referee to try and spice this up. Strowman, cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, so to speak, because he cashed in ahead of time. He wanted to get at Roman Reigns. Now, they could have done this where they actually made it that, Strowman just got beat after so much offense from Reigns, and yeah, the crowd would have booed it. But it would have been a hell of a lot better than what they ended up doing. They had Ambrose, Rollins, Drew, and Ziggler. I had to remember the card there. That was actually my favorite match on the card. Outside of, one cell match I'll talk about later in this countdown. And they had a match within a match. While Reigns and Strowman were basically catching their breath because they're big guys, and Reigns was unfortunately dealing with some health issues we would find out a little bit later. And Strowman has never been known to work long matches. They had a match basically around the cell and then on top of the cell while these guys caught their breath. And then Brock Lesnar's music hits after we thought we were rid of him. He comes down. He beats them up with a little bit, I think, was it a broken table or something? He hit him with a weapon of some kind. But that was just too much. I can't remember if it was a steel steps or a piece of a table or what it was. But he hit him with something. After they had hit each other with the goddamn kitchen sink. But that's just too much, and it was declared a no contest. Because they got themselves, stuck in a corner, and they couldn't write themselves out of it, and it was just fucking ridiculous. It was just so fucking bad. Things will get better, but probably not before this video ends. So, we get to number 36, CM Punk versus The Undertaker, World Title, Hell in a Cell 2009. So, CM Punk had a pretty good world title run, or at least he would have, if they hadn't had Undertaker basically end it, because rumor has it that Undertaker wanted Punk to dress more like a champion, and Punk said, what about Cena? And that didn't go over well, but to be fair, Punk was right. And also maybe they felt that Punk needed to be knocked down a peg, and Undertaker needed the championship, and Undertaker had gotten screwed over in the Montreal pay-per-view Breaking Point 2009 the month before. Great job there. Continuing to bring up the Montreal Screwjob. By the way, if you want to hear what I think about the Montreal Screwjob, check out the Dark Side of the Ring review that I did on the Season 1 episode. Enjoyed reviewing that one. And, yeah, Punk basically just got destroyed. Just got absolutely destroyed. And Undertaker beat him in like 10 minutes. He barely got any offense, and it was ridiculous. And then we get to Mankind vs. Kane, Raw from August 24th, 1998. Foley took a really bad fall where he pretty much missed the table and just, hit the concrete. And he said that actually hurt a lot more than the other bump that he took a couple months before. But this is just more of an angle. Mankind couldn't continue. It was no contest. So it was short. Now, we didn't have anything from The Fiend come up. At least there was that, but still, it was pretty goddamn shit. And then we get to Mankind and Kane versus Austin, Undertaker, Raw, June 15th, 1998. And here's part of the reason why this was shit. It was a cool angle, but the fact that they just diluted the Hell in a Cell concept by just having it appear, because it was supposed to be, Mankind versus Undertaker in Hell in a Cell at King of the Ring 1998, and First Blood match with Austin and Taker. Yeah, or Austin and Kane, rather. I'm sorry. It's like, if I can't beat you, I'll set myself on fire, he says. And then Kane won the title for 24 hours and then lost it back on Raw. That's a great ratings grab right there. No wonder titles meant absolutely nothing in the Attitude Era. It was a real shame. But yeah, the reason I gotta rank that one right there, though, is it was more of an angle. Undertaker got his hands on Paul Bearer and beat the shit out of him, and then would align with him a couple months later. Made no goddamn sense. So we get to number 33. Triple H versus Kevin Nash. Oh god. Foley is a referee. World title match, Bad Blood 2003. They tried with Kevin Nash. It didn't work. He had come back from injury. Triple H was trying to run the gauntlet of like his friends and other former WCW guys. Someone like you will never be champion. No, I'm not going to get angry about the fact it took him 23 goddamn seconds to pin Booker T after a pedigree, but this match was not good. Their Judgment Day 2003 match wasn't very good, and this is just a way to extend the feud. It was not going well at all. They had to bring Foley in as a referee, even though Foley would be gone from the... Well, he would still be on the program here and there, but he hadn't been with the company for a while. He wasn't even on the show in 2002 because he had a personal disagreement with Vince and needed to go home, which made sense. But, yeah, it just wasn't a good idea, and the reason it's ranked number 33 is at least they were trying, but it just wasn't fucking working. And people were cheering Triple H. I think they were just cheering for the match to be over, but yeah, it was pretty goddamn shit. So now we get to number 32, Shane McMahon versus Undertaker, Mania 32. 30 pissing minutes for Shane McMahon to go toe-to-toe with The Undertaker. Yes, Shane did that incredible dive in the crash pad, and Michael Cole saying, "For the love of mankind," you goddamn piece of shit. You fucking idiot, reading your goddamn script. Reading your goddamn script there on camera. I imagine it's hard to remember everything that Vince McMahon comes up with, but fucking Christ, Cole, you goddamn moron. Enough burying Nicole. This would have been fine about 15, maybe 16 minutes, not 30. Shane McMahon having incredibly long matches was unnecessary. And the reason that it is ranked where it is because we really didn't need to fucking see... You know, we didn't need to see that match go that long, but the fall was pretty goddamn cool. So anyway, we get to Cena versus Del Rio versus Punk, WWE Championship, Hell in a Cell 2011. So the title was hot potatoed around a whole bunch. Punk had won SummerSlam, then it got dropped to Del Rio, and then, yeah, that was basically where we pretty much were. After that, Del Rio then dropped it to Cena at Night of Champions, and then he won it back at Hell in a Cell, and then dropped it back to Punk at Survivor Series. The title was tossed around a whole lot. It wasn't that it was bad, it just wasn't great. And this was further burying the whole Punk thing. And now we move on to Cena versus Orton, WWE Championship, Hell in a Cell 2009. Yeah, we really didn't need to fucking see this, did we? We did not need to see this goddamn thing. It was fucking stupid, fucking moronic, goddamn offensive. And the reason it is ranked at number 31... I'm trying to remember this because sometimes these lists get a little jumbled. The reason it's ranked here is because they were feuding way too goddamn much, and even though it was a cool Hell in a Cell match, first time they faced off in Hell in a Cell, it ultimately did fall flat because it just wasn't very good. It really wasn't very fucking good. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon, Hell in a Cell 2017. 39 minutes. 39 minutes. Why? Why in the world did this happen? Yeah, Sami Zayn turned heel. That was goddamn cool. That was really great. Guess what wasn't great? The fact that this match got 39 goddamn minutes. 29, sure. 24, okay. Nobody cared about the Owens-Shane McMahon feud here or in 2019. It was fucking ass. It was really goddamn ass. So now we move on to Kane versus Undertaker World Title Hell in a Cell 2010. This is a feud that should have worked better than it did, but it didn't fucking work at all. And the reason that it didn't work was my fucking god. It just, Undertaker needed shoulder surgery. He was goddamn done. This was the last time he would do a full-time run at all. And Kane, even though he was in the midst of a great world title run, this feud with Undertaker did not do him any favor. Now, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And then we get to... oh boy, Rollins versus Ambrose, Hell in a Cell 2014. So here's the fucking thing. This is fucking ridiculous how they did it. Now, they did it kind of cool, at first. They had a pretty damn good match and they had a pretty good battle. But what drugged this down was Bray Wyatt doing the whole projection spoopy thing. Oh no, he's being spoopy. It's crazy. He's doing all this crap. And yeah, it was not good. It was not goddamn good at all. I don't understand why the fuck this fucking happened, it just, it was so fucking goddamn bad. So fucking goddamn bad. Now, yeah, projection. I mean, I get it. You know, they had this Ambrose Rollins feud, and they're like, we need to transition rather to having Ambrose go, you know, to a feud with somebody else so Rollins doesn't lose, but Ambrose doesn't lose. Hey, let's just have a projection thing, and it was really dumb. So we then get to Orton versus Bryan, Shawn as the ref, vacant world championship, Hell in a Cell 2013. So thankfully, we're going to start to get a little bit better after this as we crack the top 25, because this is entrant number 26. But yeah, it wasn't very good in the sense that they had drugged this feud out a whole bunch, and Shawn super kicking Daniel Bryan, which should have led to maybe Bryan versus Shawn at Survivor Series, get Shawn out of retirement, even though he said he would never come out of retirement. And he never did! Except he totally fucking did, and it was absolute fucking shit. It was one of the worst. God damn it. I fucking hate the fact that he came out of retirement for this. Or for that Saudi show. I'm sure that he got paid a lot of money. But god fucking damn it, Shawn. God fucking damn it. It was so fucking bad. And the match actually wasn't all that bad, honestly, but just the idea that Shawn Michaels was a referee, he super kicked Bryan, and Bryan could never get his comeuppance on him. I mean, seriously, what the actual fuck was that? Now, we're getting into the better stuff, by the way. So, we're going to get to, I mean, we're still not quite in the good yet, but we're getting a little bit better. So, we're done with 41 to 26, and now we're going to talk about Mark Henry versus Randy Orton, World Heavyweight Championship, Hell in a Cell 2011. I will say right now that Mark Henry's world title run went a lot better than I thought. Now, he had an injury, so they had to get off of him pretty quickly. But, yeah, I think after like 3 months. But he had a pretty damn good run. He beat Orton the previous month and had a pretty good moment. You know, he got to celebrate. He got to basically say, everybody doubted me. I won, da-da-da-da. And here they had, well, not a great Hell in a Cell match. At least it was a feud that justified it. Orton was going for revenge, trying to get his title back, and Henry was trying to cement his legacy. And he did. And he did a pretty good job as world champion. Now, I can't say his feud with Big Show, the following feud was all that great, but what he did with Orton was a pretty good piece of business. Now we move on to number 24. Owens versus Rollins, Universal Championship match. It was Hell in a Cell. Oh boy, it was, god damn it, it was Hell in a Cell 2016. Let me say right now that I loved Owens' Universal title reign. I actually thought he did pretty damn good. Rollins wanted to go for the championship that Finn Balor had beaten him for, but Finn Balor had to relinquish due to his, injury. Okay, makes sense. Here's the thing, though. They had to do something screwy, and this is when Jericho and Owens were having their, they had their bonding thing until, why is my name on this? It's like, oh no, it's all the feels, the Festival of Friendship. And now Jericho's doing God knows what in AEW. But this was actually pretty good. Yeah, Jericho interfering, the whole thing. Nobody can interfere. Of course, Jericho was going to interfere. And they had some pretty good bumps and everything. It wasn't a great match. It went on a little bit long, but it did have some good moments, and I did enjoy it overall. So, we get to number 23. Cena versus Orton. It was a number 1 contenders match, Hell in a Cell 2014, and yeah, it was better than their 2009 version because they hadn't feuded as much. They had wrestled at the 2014 Rumble, and then they wrestled here. So while it wasn't fresh, there was some cool moments and a pretty cool finish. So at least it served its purpose. It was again better than the 2009 version because absence makes the heart grow fonder, or we lowered our expectations given the fact Daniel Bryan was injured and some stuff wasn't going all that good in the fall of 2014. So we're like, okay, Cena versus Orton. Oh, it wasn't that bad. It was actually reaching the dizzying heights of okay to decent. So at least there was that. And Cena won and then went on to do what he did. And then we get, because Cena would always capture championships and always do stuff and everything. And yeah, multi-time world champion. And I think he deserved maybe 60% of those. But that's controversy for another day. Number 22, Charlotte versus Sasha, Raw Women's Championship, Hell in a Cell 2016. I'm going to say right now that they had a pretty good fight, even with, some of the botches, like the furniture not wanting to break. That is what it is. It's not the women's fault. And they crafted a pretty good match here. Yeah, they battled outside first, and they did all this stuff. And this was when Charlotte and Sasha were hot potato in the goddamn title. And it was a little bit ridiculous. Okay, it was a lot ridiculous. But it did serve its purpose. It did do some really good stuff. really good business. They did at least have good matches, even if the hot potatoing pretty much devalued the title. Then they need to get it on somebody for a while so they could have a long reign. Because otherwise, if you can't have a long reign to reestablish, hey, this is how a champion should be booked, then you're just expecting it to hot potato on a TV or a pay-per-view. And it really didn't help Sasha, because she would have short reigns, but she would never defend it successfully on pay-per-view, and that was always really dumb to me. But that being said, despite the fluky finish, and it wasn't their fault, it was just the way it happened, furniture doesn't always cooperate, they at least crafted a pretty good match here. Now, we go to number 21, Roman versus Bray. Anyone but you, Roman. Anyone but you. And it was Hell in a Cell 2015. This was pretty good stuff. Now, yes, we got away from the projection spoopiness, and we got, that Bray was eventually going to try and target The Undertaker and everything, and the Wyatt family was going to go after Kane and The Undertaker, and that would factor into a match a little bit later on this list, probably in the second part. But at least with this match, they hit some pretty powerful moves, some, strong finishes that, of course, weren't finishes, because we must have everything, be a kick out now, because we have to be like New Japan or 1990s All Japan, which I love, by the way, but the kickouts were fucking ridiculous. And in this, at least Bray and Roman did some good business. Now, I wish Bray would have won. I knew he wouldn't. Of course, Roman had to win, and then he would go on to beat Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, and then he would get cashed in on by Sheamus, and then we would have that feud in the TLC. Well, they almost got Roman Reigns over, and then they fucked it up. Good job. You should have booked him like a badass, basically. But anyway, this was a good match, and it served its purpose. These two did work really hard. Now, let's get to number 20. Reigns versus Rusev, U.S. Championship, Hell in a Cell 2016. When Roman Reigns had the U.S. title, remember when he carried it like he didn't fucking care about it, and I was really pissed off? If you watched the channel for a while, you would know what I'm talking about. And if you watch the channel that long, thank you guys for being a long-time subscriber, but thank you guys regardless for subscribing and watching however you do. What I liked about this one, though, is they used chains, they used weapons, they did some good stuff. Rusev was trying to go for a championship he had once had, trying to restore prestige to it, if you will. And Roman Reigns did carry the load. He did do some good stuff on, with the way he was, taking these moves and hitting his own, getting his own comeback. And sure, he won. Sure, I was disappointed. But I gotta admit, it actually wasn't as bad looking back on. Like, I did watch this, in the last few months. And I'm like, you know what? It wasn't all that bad. And it was a pretty damn good Hell in a Cell match, especially for a PG era one. And now, we're going to finish up with Orton versus Sheamus, WWE Championship, Hell in a Cell 2010. Okay, maybe it didn't need a goddamn cell stipulation because these two had been feuding for a few months. And this would end that, and Orton would go on a feud with Wade Barrett, and then have Miz cash in on him the night after Survivor Series 2010. I'm amazed I can remember this shit. Yes, Sheamus and Orton maybe didn't need a cell. Maybe you could have, just had this be a street fight or a Falls Count Anywhere match. But it was what it was, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It cracks the top 20, because honestly, once you get out of the top 15, you kind of get to where the Hell in a Cell match was a bit diluted. So that's where I'm going to leave this one off. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.